Good morning and welcome. We'll be getting started at the top of the hour at 10 a.m. I'm going to let everyone filter in a little early. I'll throw up a poll here. We just want to have some fun and find out a little bit more about y'all as readers. So if you'd like, just feel free to answer those questions on your screen. It's all anonymous. We just want to learn a little bit more about you. So we can kind of keep that in mind as we present today. Like I said, we'll get started at the top of the hour at 10 a.m. So if you want in the next 4 minutes, feel free to answer those questions you see on your screen. Just kind of about what would you like to borrow in Libby, what kind of genres you like. If your answer is other for your favorite genre, feel free to put what that is in the Q&A box. You can send that through to us. We'll read some of those out. A lot of great answers coming through. So get yourselves comfortable. We'll be getting started shortly. Welcome. If you're just joining us, we'll be getting started in about 2 minutes. Feel free to answer these questions if you'd like. They are anonymous. Just doing a fun little warm up here. Glad to see everyone filtering in here. Gonna be getting started shortly. All right, and I am gonna close this poll now. We'll talk about the results in just a second. All right, so I'm going to share these results, just, kind of what we were looking at. So just as a welcome here, of course, we see that a lot of people are interested in learning about ebooks, but also audiobooks and magazines. Mystery seems to be the top genre everyone voted on right now. We've got some power readers in the audience with us today, and it looks like just about everyone is reading for fun, but they're also reading for school or with their early readers. Awesome. So we are about to hit that 10 o'clock mark, so I'm going to get us rolling here. But welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Learn Libby with the Experts webinar. This morning, we will be going through a full presentation, everything from the absolute basics you need to know to make the most out of the app. And then we'll transition into a deep dive into Libby, where we look at some of our favorite tips and tricks. So this whole morning is kind of put together with all of those elements in mind. So with that said, and since we're hitting that mark there, we are going to roll into our getting started session. So welcome. I've been talking without introducing myself. My name is Joe, and I am here from OverDrive. I am one half of the digital bookmobile team. So when we're not staying safe at home, we are typically planning a tour that goes across the US and Canada. Actually, we're in Pima County today, so we're usually at the Tucson Festival of Books with our giant bright truck showing people how to use Libby. But I am here today with the other half of my team.
Hello there, I'm Marissa. So Joe does all the planning for the tour route. So the stuff that's not very fun, like budget and routing and stuff like that. I am the full-time traveler with our digital bookmobile. So I get to meet tons and tons of great patrons just like you and teach them how to use the Libby app. So now that we're staying safe at home, we've kind of transitioned my job into this webinar here.
Exactly. So this morning we're going to roll into our Getting Started with Libby session where we'll take you through those basics, the need to knows. But I wanted to point out a few things. We do have closed captions enabled, so you are able to turn those on if you need them. Just tap on the box that says CC and adjust those as you need. They might appear as subtitles, but you can turn those on if you want them. Additionally, in your Zoom meeting controls, you can ask us questions at any time throughout the entire webinar. Type out your question, it'll pop through. If one of us is talking or presenting, the other will be responding. Just keep in mind that these questions will be included in the recording, they'll be visible, so you can ask questions anonymously if that makes you more comfortable. We are recording our webinar this morning, so it can be available to you to review after the fact. You'll receive an email tomorrow morning from Zoom that includes a link to that recording. So if you want to rewatch it or share it with anyone, just when that email comes, click on that link and you're good to go. It lasts for 30 days in email form or in cloud form, but you can download it if you'd like to keep it permanently. Since we are recording our session and we have a lot of info to cover today, we recommend that you watch as we go through the presentation this morning and wait to try the steps that we'll be demonstrating until after we wrap up that session. So get through watching Getting Started with us, ask questions as we go, and then wait to try it out on your own until we end that Getting Started demo. Of course, Marissa and I like to grow this presentation, so please, if you can, fill out our survey, help us improve by filling that out. Let us know what you liked, let us know what you think could be done differently. If you need to leave the meeting early for any reason, because we're recording, you have the freedom to do that. A survey will pop up in your browser. Just fill that out, let us know what you thought. And last but certainly not least, we will be connecting our iPads this morning to show the Libby app in its kind of main form. Sometimes when we share devices in Zoom, Zoom chops off part of our screen so you can't see that full display, but I will be sending out instructions in the chat if you need to adjust that. If you don't see those instructions in your chat, pose it as a question and I'll send them through there. All right. So let me just, as my dog decides to join us, let me reach back and grab my iPad. Excuse me 1 second. He likes to be included. I'm going to take a second here and get my iPad connected. Now, as I mentioned, Marissa and I are both using iPads, but the Libby app is a free app available on your Apple devices, Android devices, or in a browser on your computer at libbyapp.com. So if you want, you can download Libby onto your iPhone or your iPad, your Android tablets, which so many options there, but like Samsung's, pretty much any typical smartphone or basic kind of tablet is going to be Android. So you can download it for free on any of those. Or if you want to use it in your computer, you can just go to libbyapp.com on the internet browser. That won't be a download though. All right, I am all connected now. So even though there's, kind of 3 formats you can use Libby on, that Apple, Android, or browser, everything looks exactly the same once we get into the Libby app. So you won't have to worry about seeing anything different on my screen just because I'm using an Apple device. The only difference you're going to see is where you'll be going to download the app. And so for my, there we go. Sorry, things are just a little out of sorts here. For my Apple users, we'll be going to the blue App Store icon. If you're using an Android device, you'll be going to the Google Play Store. It's a multicolored play button or multicolored triangle. Just need to go wherever you would typically find your apps. So I'm going to make my way to the search box. I'm going to type in Libby. And then I'm just going to tap that enter or search button on my keyboard, because when I do that, Libby is going to be the first option that pops up. So I see right here, Libby by OverDrive, that maroon app icon with Libby reading her book. Now, once again, Libby is completely free to download. You will notice on my screen it says open because I already have Libby installed on my device, but on your screen it will say either get or install. Get if you're on Apple, install if you're on Android. So tap that get or install, follow the instructions on screen. You might have to sign in and let it download. Once the app's all downloaded, we'll leave our app store and then we'll go and find that freshly downloaded app on our screen. When I tap into Libby for the very first time, she's got a few questions for me to help me find my library and get signed in with my library card. Now, you only have to do this the first time you're getting set up. So right now we're gonna, make our way through our very first setup. And then I'll show you a quick tip on how, if you're setting up Libby on more than one device after, you can shorten the process. So let's answer these questions. First one here, do you have a library card? I'll say yes. And then now we have to find our library location. Now, my favorite way to do this is to use, I'll search for a library and type in my zip code. So for our very first setup, that's what we're going to do. But if you are going to set Libby up on a second device or a third device after you complete this first one, you'll want to use copy from my other device on that second device, blah, 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 because it will take the info that we're putting in right now and pop it onto the other device you're trying to set up. So just keep that in mind for multiple devices. But we still need to get through our very first setup. So I'll search for a library. Then I'm going to type in my zip code. There we go. And I can see Pima County Public Library, Santa Rosa branch. If this is the physical building you go to, great. But if it's not, of course, it's going to show you the other options if you wanted to tap on that. But your library, even if you go to a different building than this, they all belong in your Pima County Public Library system to this one digital collection, which has the same name. So you're just looking for this one up top, Pima County Public Library. That's your digital collection, and that's what Marissa and I will be referring to. So I'm going to tap on that box to choose it. And now we just need to sign in. So I have a library card, so I would tap on choose a location, and I'm going to do that in 1 second. But if you don't have a library card, I just wanted to mention, you can get one using your cell phone number by tapping on use my phone number. It'll do some verification on the back end and give you a digital card just for use in Libby. So pointing out that cool feature, but I'm going to come up to choose a location. And I am not coming from the public school. I am coming from the county public library. So I'll make that choice. And now I need to type in my card number and then my PIN. So the card number is usually found on your card under a barcode. Type it in, no dashes, no spaces, just the numbers. Then we'll tap on next and enter that PIN. If your card won't go in or if you don't know your PIN number, just reach out to your friendly neighborhood librarians. They'll be able to help you with anything like that. And now I'm going to tap on sign in. And as long as I type that number in correctly, there we go. My digital card appeared here on the screen. I can see I now have the ability to borrow up to 20 loans and 20 holds, all just within Libby. And now I'm going to tap on next to make that card disappear. And we have access to our library's complete collection of eBooks, audiobooks, and digital magazines. So I'm going to hand it off to Marissa now, and she's going to take us through the basics of the Libby app. So searching for titles, borrowing and placing holds, customizing what ebooks look like for us, and setting our notification preferences. Marissa is going to be using a demo library from OverDrive today, so you'll see a different logo on the top of her screen, but everything functions exactly the same.
All right. My iPad's giving me a hard time connecting my device right now. So just give me 1 second here. Sometimes it takes a little longer. There we go. All right. So I want to, before we jump right into the basics of the Libby app, I just want to remind everyone about that zoom ratio. Sometimes it gets wonky and it'll cut the bottom of my screen out of the screen. So I just want to make sure everyone can see the bottom navigation bar here. You should see 5 icons across the bottom of my screen. There's a little magnifying glass, a library card, Libby's head, that is our Libby menu there, and then a stack of books and the clock. So if right now you can't see those 5 icons at the bottom of my screen, Joe just put out the instructions for how to change the zoom ratio. It's really easy. It'll take 2 seconds for you to do. And if you can't find the chat that has those instructions, just again, put it in Q&A and Joe will get that for you. If you do have closed captions on, then they might be covering up that navigation bar as well. Just click on them or use your finger and drag them to a different part of the screen there. All right, so we are going to start down here in the footer of the app, that navigation bar that I was talking about. And I'll talk about all of these icons at some point in the presentation, but we're going to actually start on our library's main page. So this is going to be the library card icon. It is to the left of the center Libby icon. So that very center icon, we're going to go directly to the left on our library card. Again, this is your library's main page of their digital collection, and it's where you go when you want to browse the library's entire collection of eBooks, audiobooks, and magazines. So you'll get to see everything that the library has to offer here on the library card. So on this page, I'm just going to break it down for you. Right up at the top here, you'll have some filters. These are a great place to start browsing for books. You can see we could tap into a filter of books that are just added. That means it's going to be a list of books that the library just purchased and put into their collection. You could also, of course, browse by popularity or available now. That's pretty popular to start searching with because it's going to be a list of titles that don't have any wait lists. And then, of course, our most popular filter I think most people use is subjects. So if you tap into subjects, we could go ahead and browse by mystery, romance, historical fiction, you name it, there's a subject for it, and you could be finding your books very quickly that way as well. So as we scroll down this page here, then you're going to see some catalog guides. Now, these are another way that the library can kind of point you in the direction of certain content based on a specific criteria. So you can see here, there's a kids room. I know we had someone who said they read with their early reader. This is a good place for you to go to find those books. And so these are actually going to differ from library to library. Every library gets to choose what catalog guides appear for their patrons. So yours aren't going to look exactly like mine will, but it's, again, just another way the library is pointing you in the direction of a good title. As we make our way farther down the page, that's when you're going to start to see some curated collections that the library puts together for you. Now, this is going to be like if you were to walk into the physical library during the summer, maybe they have an end cap displaying some beach reads. In the winter, that end cap might change to showing you cozy mysteries or holiday recipe guides. So these curated collections are going to constantly be changing so that the library can show you fresh new content based on the year or anything like that. A good example right now is Pride Month. Maybe they have a really great Pride collection they're pointing you to. So again, those will change all of the time, and you could go ahead and browse by those curated collections. So like I said, this library card in the navigation bar, that's where you're going to go when you want to look at everything that the library has to offer. It's the browsing option is what I like to say. If you are specifically looking for a title or an author or, maybe a series, and you know exactly what you're looking for, that's when you're going to perform a search instead. So instead of browsing the entire library's collection, we're going to tap on the magnifying glass. It's that very first icon in the navigation bar. And this is where you can perform a search. So we can go ahead and type in, again, a title, author, or a series name. I know we had a lot of mystery lovers here today. So let's go ahead and look for Still Life, one of my mom's favorite authors, Louise Penny here. So I just typed that in and tapped search, and you can see here there's 22 books and 6 audiobooks showing up here in this search. And that first title that's showing up is the one that I was looking for here. So there's a couple things that I want to point out while we're on this page for searching. The first is going to be how you can tell the difference between an ebook and an audiobook by looking at the jacket covers. So when libraries buy their books for their digital collection, they have to buy them as an audiobook or as an ebook. So you can't borrow a book and then switch them between the two. So I want to make sure that you are finding the format that you would like to enjoy your book in. So when you're looking for an audiobook, what you're going to look for is a square jacket cover. I always like to say it looks kind of like a CD. So it's got that square jacket cover. You listen to it. Right below that, you'll see a pair of headphones and then the duration of the audiobook as well. So those are 3 visual indicators you can use to know if a book is going to be an audiobook that you'll listen to. If you prefer the ebook format, you're going to look for a rectangular jacket cover instead. So it will quite literally look like a book, the shape of a book instead of the shape of the CD. And that's how you'll know that that is going to be an ebook that you'll read instead of listen to. So just keep that in mind so that you're borrowing the format that you prefer most. So the second thing I want to point out here on this page is going to be how you can tell the difference between a title that's available to borrow right now and a title that you'll have to join a waiting list for. So the ebook version here, you can see it says borrow next to the jacket cover. That means it's available to borrow right away, and we'll do that here in a second. First, I want to point out that the audiobook version says place hold. So that means that we have to join a waiting list to be able to enjoy this title, and we'll have to wait our turn. Very simple process to do that. All you have to do is tap on place hold. That's going to bring you to the confirmation page here. And down at the bottom, it will tell you approximately how long it will take before it will be your turn. And then you can confirm that you want to place the hold by tapping that big maroon button there. All right, so now we see I've placed a hold on Still Life. And if we come down to the bottom, Libby's giving us a few options for what we can do next. I'm going to go ahead and say keep browsing. That's going to take us right back to the search that we made. So once I tap keep browsing, you can see now the audiobook version is on my hold shelf. All right, let's go ahead and borrow the ebook version so that you can see that borrowing process. I could tap on borrow right next to the jacket cover here, but I want to show you if you don't know what the book is about yet, all you have to do is tap on the jacket cover itself, and that will show you the details page. So that details page will tell you all about the book, and you can decide if you want to borrow it from this screen. So we can see there's that borrow button again. I'm going to go ahead and tap on that. So up at the top here on the borrowing confirmation page, you'll see that you're borrowing the title for 21 days. 21 days is the default lending period at your library, and Libby does return titles automatically on their due date. So you don't have to worry about returning it manually yourself. It will just expire from your shelf. All right, I'm going to come down to the bottom of the screen here. We see that same maroon button. It's our confirmation. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on that, and that will confirm that I want to borrow the book. Now, Libby is downloading the title for offline use. You can see here, once you get a circle or a check mark in that circle, that means that you no longer have to be on Wi-Fi or use cellular data. Libby's downloaded it for offline use, and you can put your device on airplane mode and go up into a plane. You could go out into the middle of the woods, and you'll still be able to enjoy your read. So I'm going to go ahead and tap open book here. And then this is where Libby's going to give me the choice between reading the title in the Libby app or sending this book over to a Kindle device. So as Joe mentioned at the very beginning of the presentation, Libby is available to download on Android devices. There's tons. Most devices are Android devices. Then there's Apple devices. That's going to be an iPhone or an iPad. And then you can also use Libby in a web browser. You won't be able to download Libby on a Kindle device. However, if you download Libby on one of the devices I just mentioned, and then you can use this feature here to deliver it over to your Kindle if you prefer to read on your Kindle device. Very, very simple process that Libby will walk you right through. It does require you to sign into your Amazon account. So if that's the option you're looking for, make sure you have your Amazon login and password with you when you do it. I'm going to go ahead and open the book here in the Libby app to show you about a few features here within eBooks. So when you first open a book, you'll have menus up at the top and the bottom of the screen. This lower menu here will show you your reading progress. So I'm on page 1 of 416. If you want to drop those menus out of the way, all you have to do is tap in the center of the screen. Those will disappear. And then when you want to bring them back, same thing. You tap in the center of the screen. So let's drop them out of the way here. And then I'm going to tap, or you can swipe as well on the right side or the left side of the screen to page forward or backward throughout the book. So I'm just going to go ahead and land on this page here. And I want to show you how you can customize your reading appearance to meet your needs. So we're not locked into this font size or anything like that, which is one of my favorite things about the Libby app. So I'm going to tap on the center of the screen. That is what makes those menus reappear. And then up in the top right-hand corner, you'll see the A icon. That A stands for appearance. So that is what we're looking for when we want to change our reading appearance. When you tap on the A, your appearance menu will show up down in the bottom. You can change your text scale by using this slider to increase or decrease your font size. You can also change your lighting. So I'm currently in bright mode. This is Libby's default, but you also have a sepia tone or this nice dark mode. I use it a lot at night, a little easier on my eyes, doesn't keep my partner awake. And so that option is available for you too. The very last thing that you can change here in the appearance settings is your book design, or this is just Libby's fancy way of saying font. So these are the different fonts that you can put Libby into. Let's go ahead. I want to show off this open dyslexic font because it may help some users with dyslexia to read. All right, I'm going to actually change these all back to my defaults here. And that's because these settings are sticky. And what I mean by sticky settings is you only have to make these changes to your appearance settings once per device. And then Libby's going to remember what appearance settings you have in place, and your books will be delivered to you with those customizations in place. So you're not going to have to keep changing the font size every time you borrow a book. Libby's going to remember it for you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and tap on hide here. That's going to drop this menu down off the screen. And then let's leave this ebook and pop into an audiobook. So I'm going to come up to the top left-hand corner. You'll see that says back there. If you don't have those menus on the screen, remember, all you have to do is tap in the very center. It will reappear, and then you'll see that back button. So I'm going to tap on back, and that is going to take us to the shelf. So I told you we'd talk about all those icons down at the bottom. Let's head down to the footer of the app here, and I'm going to reorient everyone. So the first thing I'm going to point out down here at the bottom is the Now reading bar. You see it says Still Life. So this Now reading bar is Libby's way of giving you easy access to the last book that you had open in the Libby app. So I could just tap on this bar and it will open my book right up for me. I'm going to go ahead and dismiss this for now so that we can see the full navigation bar down at the bottom. So we started our presentation off to the left of the Libby icon. So you'll see that Libby icon is in the very center there. If I go directly to the left, we started on the library card. That library card was where you can browse the library's entire collection of ebooks, audiobooks, and magazines. Then we went over and tapped on the magnifying glass. That is where we performed a specific search. So if you know exactly what you're looking for and you want to type in that title or keyword or author name, you can do that in the magnifying glass. We're now to the right of the Libby icon. So we're going dead center. There's a Libby icon. If we go directly to the right of that, you'll see the stack of books. Kind of hard to see right now because all of my books are black. This icon will change colors depending on what books are on your bookshelf. But this is a little stack of books here. And your shelf is going to be where all of your borrowed materials are going to be and all of your holds. So if you come up to the top here, you can see I have some filters to look at my loans or my holds. Here on the main page of my shelf, it's going to always be a mixture. So it'll be your loans, and then if you have a hold that's available to borrow, it will appear on the screen too. Here is the title I just borrowed with you earlier in the presentation. If I scroll down, you can see here are some other books that I have borrowed from the library currently as well. I'm going to go ahead and open up my audiobook here. So I'm going to tap open in Libby next to my audiobook. Up at the top of the screen is where you're going to find your reading progress here in the audiobook. So I'm 44% of the way through here. Down at the bottom of the screen is where you're going to find the player. So when you're ready to listen to your audiobook, just tap on play. That will start the narrator. Now, I can hear him talking on my end, but you should only be able to hear me. But what I really think is important to know about audiobooks in the Libby app is that Libby is designed to play your audiobook in the background of your phone. And what that means is you can start playing your audiobook and then minimize the app, and you'll be able to open other apps. Your audiobook will continue playing, or you could even, put your screen to sleep on your device if you want to do dishes while you listen to your audiobook, and it will continue to play. So with that in mind, the warning that I like to give is that when you're done listening to your audiobook, you're wrapping up for the day and you want to stop for the time being, what you're going to do is tap on pause. That's going to stop your narrator from talking, and then you can continue on with your day. If you don't tap on pause or fully close the Libby app, then your audiobook will continue playing in the background and you might lose your spot. So just keep in mind when you're done listening for the time being, tap on pause and you should be good to go. All right, I'm going to come up to the top, that back button that we saw in the ebook. I'm going to tap on that to leave the audiobook as well. And we're now back on the shelf. Let's head down to the bottom of the screen again. I'm going to reorient everyone again. So we have a new now reading bar. Remember, it's always the last book that we had open in the Libby app. So I open my audiobook and now I get easy access to my audiobook. I'm going to go ahead and dismiss this. Right next to your bookshelf where your current loans and holds are, you'll see the clock icon. That clock icon is your timeline. And your timeline is going to be all of your history. So your past loans and holds, renewals, and returns. So sometimes people get a little mixed up here. Your bookshelf is going to be your current books that you have borrowed and your current holds that you have placed. And then the timeline, associate that with history. That's going to be your past. All right, we're going to finish off the presentation right in the center, that Libby icon that I was using to orient you over the last 20 or so minutes. We are going to hop into the Libby menu now. You can think of the Libby menu as your app settings, if you will. First, I want to point out that little red bubble on Libby's head. That is Libby telling me that I have a notification waiting for me. So an important alert. I'm going to go ahead and tap on the Libby icon, and that has opened up my Libby menu. So up at the top of the screen here in this box, here's that important alert that she was giving me, that notification. So my library added a magazine that I am subscribed to with my Notify Me tag, which I talk about in our tips and tricks sessions if you want to hear more about that. I'm going to go ahead and dismiss this notification just by dragging it to the left. Oh, I didn't drag it far enough. There we go. And now we can see I have a new box taking its place and it says Manage Notifications. So I'm going to tap into Manage Notification here to show you what that is all about. One thing I will let you know is that Libby is going to prompt you to manage your notifications the first time you place a hold. So Libby's going to actually bring this menu to you. You're not going to have to come find it like I am. But I do want to show you what that's going to look like when she does. So notifications, again, are a way you can be notified about important events within the Libby app. Up at the top here, you'll see the 3 different ways that you can be notified. Of course, you can ignore if you aren't interested in that particular notification. You could also set a menu badge. The menu badge is going to be an in-app notification. And I say in-app because you have to have the Libby app open to see it. And you actually just saw what that looks like. So the first indication of that menu badge was the little red bubble that was on Libby's head down in the navigation bar. And then once I tapped into the Libby menu, it appeared in the box up at the top of the screen, and I swiped it out of the way. So that is what an in-app menu badge is going to look like. If you open Libby every day or think you're going to open Libby every day, that is a perfectly fine option for you. If you're not going to open Libby every day, I suggest going with this blue notification option instead. That is going to be a push notification, and it will appear on your device's screen regardless of what app you have open. So you could be looking at Libby, but you could also be browsing on Facebook or reading the news. And if your notification comes in, it's going to appear on your device's home screen or your device's screen, just like a text message would. So it's a good option to not miss any of those important events because it will even appear outside of the Libby app. So those are the 3 ways you can be notified. Right underneath that are all of the things you can be notified about. The most important is hold ready. And I apologize in advance. I harp on it a little bit here. So it is really important to be notified when your hold is ready for you, because when it's your turn on a wait list, you are going to have 3 days, more specifically 72 hours from the time that the book is released to you. And you will have that book will be in a 3-day limbo period. So you're the only person who can take action on that book at that time in those 3 days. The 3 actions you can take are to borrow the book, to cancel your hold if you're no longer interested in it, or to have the title delivered later. Sometimes you'll probably find, this happens to me a lot, all of my books come at once and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to read them all. What Libby does is with deliver later, you can choose a time period where you stay at the top of the wait list for that title. And then once that time period ends, you'll be the next person in line to get the book. So you're not going to have to lose your place in line just because you're not ready to read it yet. So 3-day limbo period, you have your 3 actions you can take there: borrow, cancel, or deliver later. If you don't take one of those actions in that 3-day limbo period, Libby's going to automatically deliver the title later one time as a courtesy, and then you'll have a second 3-day limbo period to take action again. If after the second limbo period, you don't take action, that's when Libby's going to cancel your hold. And that means you'll have to rejoin the waiting list, which will put you at the bottom. And the reason I harp on it is because I don't want you missing any of those books that you were excited to read. So make sure that you are getting notified about your holds being ready. Joe makes fun of me because I really go on a rant, but I think it's important. All right, I'm going to come up here and tap on back. We have 2 more things we're going to talk about before we wrap up. The next is our libraries. So you can see here, I have 2 library cards attached to Libby. Libby will allow you to add multiple library cards. This can be from the same library if you have many people in your family who want to share a single device and you don't want to fight over that loan limit like my siblings certainly would have when we were kids. You can also add additional library cards from other library systems if you have access to them. So here in Cleveland, I have access to 3 different library systems. It might be different for you there in Pima County. I would reach out to any of the library systems that you're interested in to see if you could get a card there. The benefit to adding multiple cards is perhaps one library hasn't purchased a book that you want to read. You can pop into your second or third library system and see if they have bought it instead. All right, last but not least, help and support. What's really great about the Libby app is you can contact help and support directly through the app. So if you tap on Get Some Help, first, Libby's going to show you some common solutions to frequently asked questions. This will also be where you can find the other half of that setup code that Joe was talking about in the very beginning of the presentation. If you want to copy all your cards over to another device, here's the second half of that. Up at the top here, you can see that box that says, how can we help? You can type in a question or even a keyword here. One thing that I don't talk about in this presentation in detail is returning titles early before their due date. And the reason I don't do that is because I like to keep this Libby Getting Started session to the very basic need to know features of the Libby app. And because titles return automatically on their due date, I don't prioritize it, but I do use it as a way so that you can see how easy it is to find out more information. So I'm just going to type in return. I'll use a keyword and tap on search. Because I'm using a keyword, Libby's going to guess what it is that I'm looking for, and I'm looking for the article on returning books. So I'm going to tap on that. Here, Libby tells me they return automatically on their due date, but right below that, she also gives me the instructions on how to return titles early if I want. Down at the very bottom, if you can't find what you're looking for, you can always tap on Ask Our Support Team. This will connect you with OverDrive technical support specialists. They are Libby experts, and they are also super friendly people who can answer any questions for you or even troubleshoot any deeper issues. Maybe your book isn't downloading right. You can send them a little email and they will reply back to you in an email with some troubleshooting steps on how to fix it. So that is the very basics of the Libby app here, wrapped in a 25-minute bow. I'm going to let Joe take back over on the screen here, and he's going to get us into some next steps.
Awesome. Thanks, Marissa. And thank you all. This wraps up the getting started portion of our morning here. We do have a few kind of pieces to tie that up neatly in the, the rest of that bow Marissa was talking about. But I just wanted to throw some reminders out there for anyone who's joining us or joined us a little late. You can ask us any questions you have using that Q&A button, and you can ask those anonymously if that makes you more comfortable. If you can't think of a question or don't have one for us, we have a few for you. We're going to throw up some quizzes on the screen here in a minute just to test what you learned. You're welcome to participate or just chill out with us and keep sending through questions as we prepare for our deep dive. At 10:45, we'll be rolling into that session where we look at our favorite tips and tricks, and then we'll end the webinar with an open live Q&A plus on iPad demo for y'all. But we suggest, if you're feeling confident, sticking around for the deep dive. So if you're kind of at your max, if you don't think you can take in any more info today, totally fine. Just as a reminder, we are recording and you will receive access to that recording in an email tomorrow morning from Zoom. So you're not going to miss anything, even if you do need to step away early. I'll give you a last call before we hop into that deep dive, so you have a chance to jump if you'd like. And if you do leave early for any reason, just remember a survey will pop up in your browser. And if you can fill that out for Marissa and I, we would greatly appreciate it. So all of that out of the way, I am going to take us into some questions here. So I have a few that's popping up, and while I go through these, Marissa's going to answer any Q&A that pops up. The question will appear in the center of your screen now. Give it your best answer. If you don't know the answer, there is an unsure option available. So question 1, in the navigation bar at the bottom of your screen, what do you tap when you want to browse your library's collection? So this is when you don't know specifically what you want, you just want that feeling of looking around the library digitally. The magnifying glass, the library card, the Libby menu, the stack of books, or the clock. I'm going to close this one in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Awesome. Great work, everyone. Little split there, but the majority's got it. When you want to browse your library's collection virtually, you take your finger and you're going to grab your library card and go to the library. I don't know why that one wasn't starting. There we go. So we're going to tap on that library card icon. This will show us some great filters at the top to search by. Then we can look at our different guides that your library put together for you. And then we can start to look at those curated lists, which are going to be exactly like end caps. June is Pride Month. Around the holidays, there's usually cozy mysteries. When you want something specific, like, a title, author, series, or keyword you're looking for, that's when we tap on the magnifying glass and type it out. I'm going to go on to question 2 here. We're still in the navigation bar. What do you tap to find your current loans and holds? So anything you're currently reading or listening to, and anything you're waiting to borrow. The magnifying glass, the library card, the Libby menu, the stack of books, or the clock. And I'll close this one in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Awesome work, everyone. So the majority's got it here. When you would like to see what you're currently borrowing or waiting on the holds list for, tap on that stack of books icon to go to your shelf. From here, you can break things down by just your loans or just your holds. Or if you scroll through that page, Libby's going to do some organizing for you based off of what you've opened most recently. Okay, here's an important one. Now we're going to dive into, ooh, what's it doing? There we go. Now we're going to dive into an ebook. What are the 3 ways you can customize your ebook's appearance? So there are 3 correct answers. Select all that apply. You can change the text scale, you can change the lighting, you can change the book design, or you can change the language. So size of the font, the background color, the font the book is in, or the language it's written in. We're going to close this one in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Awesome work, everyone. This one is a little tricky, but when we want to change the way our ebook looks to customize it for our needs, we just have to tap in the center of our screen that pulls up those menus, and we tap on that A icon to go into the appearance settings. From here, we can change the text scale or that size of the font. I like to say that every book can be a large print book when it's digital. Then you can change the lighting or that background color. So bright is the default, but dark is nice and easy on the eyes. And then last, you can change the font that the book is presented in under book design. We've got 5 presets, including our open dyslexic font and the default from the publisher. But there's also a custom option where you can kind of create your own ideal setting. So maybe that's more spaces between lines and things like that. If you answered language, that is a great answer. Your library does offer titles in many different languages, but just like how you have to pick if you want an ebook or an audiobook, you also have to pick if you want that in a different language. Marissa's going to show us some preferences in our tips and tricks session that will help you kind of set up that those language needs easier for you. And we are right at time here. So I'm going to skip the rest of these questions. We never know how many questions we're going to need. So we have a few on deck, but there we go. Let me just pull this up. So this is that last call I was offering. If you are going to hop off for any reason, if you are, out of time for the morning, or if you're at your mental capacity, totally fine. This is that chance before we head into our deep dive session. But if you're ready and excited to learn more, we encourage you to stay. Otherwise, remember, you'll be able to review this as early as tomorrow when that recording comes to your email. So if you are leaving now, thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate your time. But now I am going to take us on over to our deep dive session. I don't think we had anyone new join us at 10:45. Sometimes people come in just for the tips and tricks. So I'll go through these next couple slides a little quickly, but welcome if you are just joining us. My name is Joe, and I'm here with my teammate Marissa, and we are part of the digital bookmobile team here at OverDrive. We are usually traveling across the country to do sessions like this, but since we're still staying safe at home, we're excited that we get to see you from the comfort of our own homes. Now I have a few housekeeping items I'd just like to touch on quickly. We do have closed captionings enabled, so if you need those, feel free to turn those on. There's a box in your Zoom controls that says CC. If you tap on that, they'll start popping up. If you've got questions for Marissa and I about the Libby app or anything OverDrive, we are here for you. You can ask those through the entire webinar. If you were here for our getting started session, we do this one a little bit differently, where I may mark some of these to be answered live, because after we wrap up our 4 tips and tricks, we'll be heading into a live Q&A demo session where we'll be showing answers to your questions directly in the Libby app. So just keep that in mind. We will get to all those questions before we wrap up the meeting. I've mentioned it a few times, but of course, we are recording our session today, and you'll be able to review that as early as tomorrow morning when you receive a link in an email from Zoom. That link will expire after 30 days, but you do have the option to download it permanently and, keep that video forever if you wish. With that in mind, since you can review the recording, we do cover a lot of info. So just keep in mind, we recommend that you watch us as we go through each tip and wait to try them out on your own after we wrap up this tips and tricks demo. Of course, if you need to hop off at any point or when I end the meeting, a survey will pop up in your browser. If you could fill that out for us, we would love to be able to continue to grow and evolve this presentation so it helps everyone. And last but certainly not least, before we jump in, Marissa will be connecting her iPad today, and sometimes Zoom cuts off part of her screen. It's important you can see that full display. So when she connects, I'll be sending out some instructions. If you don't see those, pop it in as a question. All right, now let's get into the meat of it. So we have 4 broadly presented here tips and tricks we're going to cover. So we're first going to talk about magazines and some of the great updates that have come out recently in Libby about how you can enjoy them. Then we will look at how to find our favorite titles faster by filtering and refining lists. Then we're going to look all about tagging and kind of talk about the magic of tags before we wrap up with some of our favorite updates and features if you're a person like us who loves to make notes and highlights. I mentioned earlier, but after Marissa gets through these 4 tips and tricks, we will then go into a live question and answer session on video here, where we will be usually reading out most of the questions and demonstrating those answers on screen for you. So Marissa's all connected. I'm going to let her dive right in. Once again, thank you all so much for joining us.
All right, thanks, Joe. And I'm just going to give that final reminder before I jump in. If your closed captions are blocking the bottom of the screen, I'd just go ahead and drag them out of the way. And then if you can't see that navigation bar down in the bottom with those 5 icons, then Joe just put out the instructions on how to change that again for you. So I want to make sure you can see my full screen here as we dive into our tips today. So tip number 1, reading and enjoying magazines in the Libby app. Let's go ahead and open up a magazine from my shelf. So to find magazines, you do the same process I showed you in the getting started session. You can search for them or browse for them. I already have a magazine downloaded to my Libby app because they're very image heavy, so they can take a minute to download, and I don't want you to just have to sit and wait for my magazine to download here. So I already have it downloaded. I'm going to open it right up. All right, so up at the top and the bottom of the screen, you'll have those menus that you saw in the ebook experience as well. The magazine is going to have some thumbnails down at the bottom. So I always like to joke, if you have perfect vision and you can tell what those pages are and you want to use that to navigate, more power to you. I typically think it's a little small for my poor eyesight, so I don't go that route, but I have seen many people that like to use these thumbnails here to jump to different pages. So that is an option for you there. I'm going to tap in the center of the screen to make those menus drop away. And then you can, just like in that ebook, tap or swipe to page forward. Now, my mom, she likes to read every single page of a magazine front to back. She doesn't care if it's an ad. She needs to see it all. If that's you, then just swiping or tapping on the right side of the screen to page forward and do that. That is going to be your best option for navigating. Now, if you're more like me and you just want to read specific articles and you want to skip over all the ads, what I like to do is navigate until I see the table of contents, or magazines like to call them mastheads. And then you'll be able to tap on any of these article names, and that will link you to that article. So let's go ahead and just jump over to this article about Katherine Heigl. So down at the bottom of the screen here, now that I'm over in the article, you'll see a little icon at the very bottom. It's black with a white page on it. What you're going to do to read the article is tap on that icon there. And Libby is going to bring up the magazine article in this amazing menu. This is a recent update that we have, and I absolutely love it because it allows you to read your magazine in a scrolling fashion here. All of your text is the same exact size, and you will be able to enjoy it without having to zoom in and out of that magazine page. What's also really awesome about this menu here is that it actually carries over any of those reading appearance customizations that I showed you in the getting started session. It'll carry those on over to the magazine experience here. So this is actually the font size that I prefer to read my books in, and it carried on over into this magazine. If you are someone who is just here to enjoy magazines, you didn't make any settings in your ebook, then you'll see that A icon, you'll recognize it. If you tap on that, you'll be able to adjust those reading settings for your magazine there. Over on the left, you'll see I have some fingers pointing me in either direction. This is another new update and one of my favorite things, because when you tap on that arrow, it jumps you over to the next article. So we're skipping all those ads. Sorry, Mom, I don't care about the Coach purse. I just want to read the goodies of the magazine. So that's what I use. I like to use these fingers to just skip me on over to the next article. Right in the center there, you'll see it looks like a little table of contents, and that's exactly what it is. When you tap on that, you'll be able to view the full table of contents here, and it will tell you the article name, and you can use that to go ahead and jump to that specific article. When you're done reading any of the articles that you want to read, what you can do is tap on back or that up arrow. That's going to drop that menu back off the screen and take you back to the traditional magazine view. And then to leave the magazine, all you have to do, same thing as that ebook, tap in the center of the screen, and then tap on back up in the top left-hand corner. So that is reading and enjoying magazines in Libby. I'm loving these new updates that have been put out recently. It really makes that magazine experience so enjoyable, I think. All right, I'm going to go ahead. We're going to jump into tip number 2, and that is going to be customizing your lists. So filtering and refining your lists so that you can find the books that you like faster. So I'm going to actually jump in the navigation bar. We're currently on the shelf. I'm going to jump over to the library page here. That's that library card at the bottom of the screen. And here we're going to talk about filtering and refining those lists. So the first thing I want to show you is how to set an app-wide preference. And how you're going to do that is on your library main page here. If you just scroll right below the catalog guides, remember these are going to differ from library to library, but at the very bottom of those catalog guides, you'll see a preferences button. This preferences button is really great because it is a way that you can save and apply a filter to the entirety of the Libby app, and it will filter out content that you're not interested in. So an example of an app-wide filter that I set is a language preference. So under language, instead of Libby showing me every book that, or every different language in my searches, I change that from any to English. Much to my French teacher's disappointment, I could probably only read some kids' books there. So I don't really want any other language titles showing up in my searches. I'm not going to be able to read them. So I only want English titles. Some other examples of a preference you might set that we see commonly when we're out on the bookmobile is perhaps you have a particular format that you are interested in and you don't want to be seeing the other formats in your searches. Maybe you specifically like to read your books, you don't like to listen to them, you don't care about magazines. That's when you would set a book preference. That's going to make sure you're only seeing books in your searches. And vice versa. Maybe you like to listen, you are no longer interested in reading, then you'll set an audiobook preference. That's going to make sure your searches only show you audiobooks. I know we had someone with an early reader as well. If they do have their own tablet, a good preference for them is going to be the audience preference. You can set a juvenile preference. That way they're only seeing age-appropriate content. So a couple examples there of an app-wide preference that you might want to set in the Libby app. I'm going to go ahead and apply my English language preference by tapping apply. Now you can see Libby refresh the page. And if I scroll back down, I now have a number 1 sitting next to that preferences button. So this is a visual indicator of Libby telling you that you have a filter set, a preference set that's filtering your lists. And the reason it's important to know that is, in this example, let's say every single library has a copy of The Great Gatsby in their catalog. It's a very popular book. Every library is going to have it. But you search for The Great Gatsby and it's not showing up and you're like, what's going on? It's because you have a preference set and it's filtering The Great Gatsby out. So I always like to point out, there's a preference set if there's a number next to it. And if a book that you are sure the library has is not showing up in a search, check those preferences. All right, so that is how you can set an app-wide preference. Now I'm going to show you how to set some temporary filters for your searches. So filtering and refining your browsing. So for this, I'm going to give a little prompt here. My mom and I, let's pretend we're going on a road trip tomorrow, and we're going to need an audiobook to listen to. So I need it to be in the audiobook format. It's not legal to read and drive quite yet. And then I need that book to be available now. Our road trip is tomorrow. I don't want to join a waiting list. So that's 2 criteria. I'm going to let you guys choose the format, actually. So you said you were big mystery readers. Let's go for a mystery thriller. And then last but not least, I want that to be a new release, maybe something that's come out in the last year. So that's my criteria I'm going to use for this tip. An audiobook that's available now, a mystery thriller, and then a new release. So up at the top of our library homepage, you'll see those filters I talked about at the beginning of getting started. These are some of my favorite ways to start browsing for books. And you'll see we have an available now filter. I'm going to go ahead and use that to start off this tip here. So I tapped into available now. Up at the top, you can see I'm looking at available titles in English. Remember, I set that app-wide preference with you just a second ago. And I'm seeing 37,000 books, 21,000 audiobooks, and 2,400 magazines. This is quite a lot. We could be here all day searching for a book. So little hiccup. So I'm going to start narrowing this down here. I'm going to tap on audiobooks. That's going to filter out the eBooks and the magazines. And now we drop to just the 21,000 audiobooks. Now I'm going to come over to the refine button on the right side of the screen. When you tap on refine, first you're going to say, why are you bringing up a menu that has the same categories as preferences? Preferences are sticky and will continue to filter your lists until you remove that preference or change that preference. Even if you shut down your device and then come back a day from now or a week from now, your preference is still going to be there. Refining, on the other hand, is temporary and for the search or browsing that you're making right at that moment. So we can set all of these refine filters, and then the next search that we look for a book for, it's going to revert back to showing us everything. So sticky and stay, temporary for the search we're making right now. I'm going to go ahead and tap on subject. And we said we're going to look for a mystery thriller. So first I'll tap on mystery. That number has dropped from 21,000 to 2,800. So we're already making some headway here. I'm going to come back over to refine, and I'm going to choose a second subject. So I don't want to read just a mystery title. I want to listen to a mystery thriller title. So I'm going to narrow this down even more by tapping on thriller as my second genre. Now you can see we've dropped to 560. I like to show this off so that you know that you can find any niche subjects if you want to. You can add additional subject filters, and it's going to really narrow down that list for you. I have made it to 5 filters once or twice. Usually Libby's like, you're asking for something way too specific, but 2 or 3 generally get me where I need to go. So find those niche subjects there if you'd like. All right, we have one more bit of criteria. We're currently looking at available audiobooks that are mystery thrillers. I want a new release. So I'm going to come back to Refine, and I'm going to sort this list. So down at the bottom, if you're on a smaller device, you might need to scroll a little bit. If you tap on sort by, you can sort the list by quite a few different things. I'm going to choose release date here. So now all those new releases are showing up at the top. And as I make the way down the list, those are going to get older and older. So that is tip number 2, filtering and refining your lists so that you can find the books you like faster. We started with over 70,000 titles, and we narrowed that list down to 560. So much easier to find a book that we're going to enjoy. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move into tip number 3. And this is my favorite tip. It is tags. And we're going to actually stay here on this screen in this search for my mom and I's audiobook. And we're going to talk about how to make tags. Tags are a way to organize books in the Libby app. So you can make tags to keep track of wish lists. You can make tags to keep track of books that you loved in the past. I even like to use my tags to keep track of gifts to give to the readers in my life. I'll make each of my readers their own tag, and then when Christmas rolls around, I can just pick out some books and then go and buy them at the store. So you can really get creative with how you use your tags. And to tag a book, it's very simple. If you come across a book that you want to save for later for any reason, what you're going to do is tap on tag. It's right under play or read sample when you're searching. If you tap on tag there, you'll be able to create a new tag or add the book or magazine to an existing tag that you have already. So you can see here, I have some regular tags. That just means they're simply tags I created to organize my books. They don't have any special abilities. I have a little TBR, my wish list tag, and then I also have a cooking tag to keep track of some recipe books that I would like to keep track of. Next, we have some smart tags. These do have special abilities. So the first smart tag is going to be a borrowed smart tag. It looks like a little receipt there. It's just like if you were to check out a book at the library and they handed you a receipt on your way out. This is a little receipt that attaches to all of the books that you borrow in Libby so that you have a nice little list there. This can be deleted. I'll show you how to do that here in a minute, but it's a really nice way to reference all the books you've borrowed in the Libby app. Right below that is a magazine. You see it says magazine. This is a notify me tag. And this is a tag that is currently specific to magazines. And what it does is when you first borrow a magazine in Libby, Libby's going to prompt you to create a notify me tag. You can name it whatever you'd like. I do magazines just to keep it simple here. And then once you create your notify me tag, anytime you borrow a magazine, Libby will ask you if you want to add it to your notify me tag. And then when new issues of those magazines come into the library's digital collection, you'll get a notification. We actually saw this at the very end of getting started. I had a new issue that was available for me of the magazine that I like to read. So A really nice way so you're not having to keep looking for the New Yorker's new issues of the magazine. It will just come to you in a notification. All right, I'm going to go ahead and actually create a new tag here to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to tap on new tag, and we can name our tag and add a description. I don't often add descriptions, but that is an option available for you. I'm just going to make this a mystery tag. I do a lot of genre tags. I'm never in the mood quite when I find them in my searches, but if I am in the mood, I can go into that tag and find a book really easily. So I'm going to make mystery and then tap on done. And you'll see that tag has now attached to When the Stars Go Dark. So I know it's been added to that tag list. And it's really great here that Libby shows up, or those tags show up in the Libby app during your searches. And the reason that's so nice is as we make our way down this list, let's pretend I'm still searching for that book for my mom and I see here that this is on my to be read list. So it's already on my wish list. I would probably go ahead and borrow that right away instead of continuing to search for a book. Makes it really nice, easy, and simple. It's also nice, let's pretend this wasn't there and I'm still scrolling down my list. I see this has my borrowed tag attached to it. So I've borrowed this book in the past. Maybe it was a couple years ago and I don't remember, but I know that I've borrowed it in the past because that tag is attached there. So I can just skip over it in this list and make my way down to continue looking for the book. So that is how you can create tags. Now I'm going to show you where those tags live in the Libby app and how you can look at them in the form of a list. So I'm going to come down to the bottom of the screen and tap on the shelf. So on your shelf, remember you'll see your loans and your holds, but then you'll also see your tags listed right after. Libby's always going to show you 2 tags. If you tap on more, that will give you a full list of all the tags that you have created. And then you can tap on that tag if you want to look at the list. So I'm going to look at my wish list here. Let's open up my to be read. And we can see all of the books that I've added to this wish list. One thing that I really like to point out here is this library card. See that icon? It kind of looks like a library card. Sometimes it will look like a calendar instead if the title is on a wait list. But what's really awesome is if you tap on that library card, I'm actually going to go down one. I know that I have good book there. So if you tap on that list, or that icon, you'll see the borrow button or place hold. So very simple to borrow your book. But more importantly, what I'm showing you is down at the bottom, you'll see that all of your libraries will be listed and it will show you how many copies are available at each of your library. So this comes in really handy when you're looking for a title that's really popular and they might have different wait lists times at each of your libraries, and you can choose what library has the shortest wait list to join. So I like to show that off for you. I'm going to come up above this menu here and just drop it out of the way by tapping right above. And then up at the top of the screen, you'll see an actions button. That actions button is going to be how you can rename or delete a tag. And then really cool here, you can also export your tags out of the Libby app so that you can send them in an email to someone, or you can even print them out as well. So I'll show you how to do that here. All you'll have to do is tap on export tag. Libby gives a couple different options for how you can export your data here. I personally like table. You'll figure out what option works best for you. I've seen it all on the bookmobile. People love all the different options, so you'll figure that out. I'm going to come up now. We're on the data export page. Up at the top in the right-hand corner, you see that share icon. That's actually a universal icon in apps. They always look like that, the share button there. I'm going to tap on it. And this is how we can send out this tag list in a message or an email. And then if you scroll down just a tiny bit, you'll also see the button that says print, and you'll be able to print your tag list out as well. Maybe you want to go to the physical library, see if they have a physical copy of the book, then you can print out your tag list to take with you. So that is tip number 3, tagging titles. Like I said, my favorite tip. I love to create lists of books. I honestly might like creating lists of books as much as I like to read them. We are going to go ahead and move into our last tip of the day here. And that is going to be making notes and highlights in the ebook experience. And I saw someone was reading for school. So this is really, really the tip for you. I'm going to go ahead and open up this Pride and Prejudice title, a book I've made notes and highlights a lot. Joe has annotated the heck out of this book. He took a whole class on Jane Austen. Okay, so making notes and highlights, really great for book clubs, reading for school. What you're going to do when you want to make a highlight in a text is start at the very beginning of that passage. Let's say I'm going to start with, this is a big paragraph. Let me go over. Okay, there we go. I'm going to highlight this section here. So I'm going to start by putting my finger on the word but. I'm moving my mouse slightly to the left so you can see what happens as my finger touches the word but. So as soon as I lay my finger there, it turns blue. Make sure as soon as your finger touches the screen, it's sticking on the screen. You don't want to just tap because that's going to turn the page. So as soon as your finger's on the screen, start dragging it across until the full passage is highlighted in blue. And then that's when you can lift your finger up off the screen, and you'll have the ability to define words. If you want to do in an individual word and define it, you can also make that highlight here. So I'm going to choose a color. We'll stay organized. I'll choose pink. Once I chose my color, that is when I can now tap on the highlight, and Libby will allow me to add a note. So for book clubs that I've been a part of, I've been able to type in full paragraphs here. I'm just going to do this is a note for the sake of demonstration, and then tap save. And now I'm going to page forward here and show you how you can hop back to the note and reference that note and highlight when you want to. So I'm going to tap on the center of the screen. That's going to make those menus appear. And then up in the top right-hand corner there, you'll see it looks like multiple bookmarks sitting there in a row. That is what we are looking for. So when you tap that icon, you'll get to see a full list of all of the highlights that you've made in the title. And these are actually all links. So you just have to tap on the one that you want to reference, and Libby's going to drag you right back to that passage. And then you can tap on the highlight there to see the note that you made. Now, I know maybe you made some notes and highlights in a book and then it returned back to the library and you still want to have access to those. You don't have to have a book on your bookshelf here to see your notes and highlights. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can find those notes and highlights even once the book has returned to the library. So I'm going to leave this ebook here. I'm going to tap on back. For both of the ways that you can access your notes and highlights, what you're going to do is go to the details page of that book. You can do that by searching for it using the magnifying glass and tapping on the jacket cover there. I always like to just go to my borrowed smart tag. It comes in handy in so many different ways. And then here, I know it was a book that I made highlights in. And there it is. Super simple to find. I'm going to go ahead and tap on the jacket cover from here. So this is the details page. On the details page, you'll have a reading journey. That reading journey starts as soon as you borrow a book, and then it captures all of the actions that you take with that book while it's in your possession. I'm going to tap on reading journey here. The first way to find your notes and highlights of this title is the actions button. It looks familiar, right? We used it in the tagging tip. If you tap on actions, you can export your reading data just like we did with those tags. We can send them out in an email or in a text message or print them out as well. So that is the first way you can find them. The second way is actually still on the same screen here on that reading journey. If we just scroll down to the timeline for the title, you'll see my highlights are listed out here. And you can just tap on a highlight and it's going to show you the full passage as well as the note that you made about that highlight. So those are the two ways you can find those even after the title has returned to the library. And that actually wraps up our last tip here of the day. So I'm going to let Joe open this back up. We're going to hop into our Q&A section here.
Thanks, Marissa. It's fun being the MC. I get to do all the, all right, here we are. It's the next time. Well, thank you, everyone. That wraps up our 4 tips and tricks. So we will be flowing into our Q&A session now. So if you've got more questions than you've sent through already, keep sending them through. Marissa and I will be here answering. We have about 10 minutes left, but as I mentioned before, we won't end the webinar until all questions are answered. Now, there are a couple that have come through that I'm just going to bring up and kind of read out loud here to talk through. One that came up in our Getting Started session, I just wanted to make note of because it's a great feature that highlights the difference between OverDrive and Libby, was when listening to audiobooks, are you still not able to use data and cellular when listening? And I just wanted to point out that Libby is designed that you can either download titles if you want to be able to read them offline, or you can stream them. So this is a great chance that if you have unlimited data and you don't want to worry and you don't need to worry about using your data plan, or if you're almost always on Wi-Fi, you can change that on your shelf by tapping on that stack of books and then tapping on actions and then change download rules. So you can see on our shelf kind of here, we've got all these check marks, meaning that they are downloaded to my device for offline usage. Here instead, we can change a few different things. By default, Libby is set to automatically download all titles, so everything, when you're connected to Wi-Fi. So that's also the button at the bottom. So making sure she's never using your data. But if you want her to download things off of Wi-Fi, you can turn that off. Or if you don't ever want her to download anything, unless you change that yourself, you can choose nothing, or you can limit the size of titles. So just wanted to point that out. It was a great point to bring up. I also wanted to bring up Pima County Library has access to 10+ library systems within Arizona. Of course, we're OverDrive, so we're kind of all over the place. If you want more information on what libraries you have access to with your Pima County card, reach out to your librarians. They'll be able to tell you a little bit more about that. And let's see. There was also a great question that came through of why was the duration under the audiobook? Why was 18 hours in red further up the list when other times are in black? So sometimes when we tap on something, it changes color because Marissa's using an iPad, even though you're seeing her cursor. But also Libby is getting some cosmetic updates here and there. So like the Neil deGrasse Tyson book, or audiobook right there, we can see on our screen it says 4 hours underneath, and that's in black. That's because the majority color of the jacket cover is in black. So you may see other audiobook times appearing in blue if the majority of the cover is blue or red, things like that. So sometimes it's because we're tapping on our screen, other times it's because Libby's trying to make it more of a fun and kind of pleasing approach. All right, so now we're going to get into these live questions here.
Jen, I'm currently asking a technical support specialist for you. That is a really good question that I haven't gotten before. So I'm going to look for you.
Oh, that is a great question. I believe that Marissa is going to get the answer for that, but I believe that if a title leaves the library, you no longer have a way to access it. So if it leaves the collection, you can't access your notes and highlights because you have to be able to get to a details page. But if it comes back into the collection with the same, like if you were thinking of it like an ISBN, if that same version comes back in, your notes and highlights come back in with it.
I would also suggest, if that's something you're afraid of, I would just export your notes and highlights, every book, into an email, and then you at least have that exported document in your email that's saved for you. That would be the workaround, but I'm asking because there might be a way.
Absolutely.
Let's do, how do you delete your reading journey or a list of what you've borrowed? Okay, cool. So there is my borrowed smart tag. If I tap into that, then on that actions button that we can export that tag out of the app, you can also delete it. So that is how you can delete that borrowed tag or any tag that you create. Maybe you don't need it anymore. You can just come in here and delete it. I like that you can have that ability if you change your mind. For your reading journey, there's a couple different ways that you can do that. You can go to the manage loan if it's currently on your shelf, tap on reading journey there, and you'll see that actions button up at the top. Once you tap on actions, you can delete your reading journey. So you just have to there's a couple different ways to get to your reading journey, but as long as you are on your reading journey, that actions button, delete journey, and you should be good to go. That'll take out all of your highlights, all of the actions that you've taken with your book. So keep that in mind. And one thing that sometimes people ask is, can other people see my notes and highlights? And the answer is no. These are specific to you. So when you make notes and highlights and then the title goes back to the library, the next person in line isn't going to see anything that you did.
All right, we also have, can I share a book on loan from a library with another family member without affecting the original loan period? Typically, we recommend that if it is your library card, you're the one who's using it. There's not a way to share a book that you've borrowed, but Libby is accessible on multiple devices. Now, if you want to recommend a title to someone, so maybe you're reading a book right now that you really want someone else to get their hands on, like we'll just grab that one. Perfect. There's that share button again. If you tap on that, this will share the details page directly out, so you can text that to someone or email it, or if you just want to copy it and put it in your preferred place. But just with physical materials, it's the same kind of thing. If you're the one reading the book, it's checked out to you, so you're kind of the one responsible for it. So if you are borrowing it digitally, same kind of idea. It's on your card.
You did say family member though, and so my partner and I, we will read books together. So we share a device, or both of our devices have both our library cards on it, and that way we can, share it back and forth with each other. So that is an option too.
Definitely. But if it goes on to, but if you are sharing a device, or if it's on more than one, if your card is on more than one device, you might want to make sure you're not reading it at the same time, because Libby will just keep syncing the progress. So if they read 50 more pages than you do, when you open it, you'll skip over those 50 pages.
That's what bookmarks and notes and highlights are for. I always make my highlight Marissa's spot, Kyle's spot. So.
Do we have an answer back for Jen yet?
Let's see here. So you were right, Joe. There is not a way because you wouldn't be able to get to that details page.
Can
So
you
I
also
would,
ask if it leaves their timeline? I would assume so, but that one I'm not as sure on.
yeah, all right. There was a question while we're waiting for that answer. There was a good question. Oh, two people had asked if there is a way to upload like books that you've purchased from, maybe Kindle or books that you've gotten off of Project Gutenberg, if you can then upload those into the Libby app. And that isn't possible. So Libby is only compatible with titles that your library offers through their digital collection. So unfortunately, you won't be able to upload any of your Kindle titles or anything like that that you've purchased.
Yeah, Libby is designed to be that library reader, but your library can add Project Gutenberg titles, of course, at any point on their end, as well as hosting local content. Awesome. Well, I know we are at that 2:30 mark, so of course, if you do have to hop, not a problem. But if you are typing a question, feel free to finish that. We will keep answering while we are waiting for this last answer on the timeline here. But if you are hopping off, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate your time and your patience. And just a few reminders, of course, you will receive an email tomorrow morning from Zoom that includes a link to our recorded presentation. If you want to review anything we covered today, click that link and the video will pop up. Feel free to watch it, skip around, pause and play us back as much as you need. That virtual link only lasts for 30 days, but there is a button once you click into the video player that says download, so you can keep that video forever. Of course, you're more than welcome to share it with family and friends, anyone who you think would benefit from meeting Libby. Additionally, when I end the meeting, a survey is going to pop up in your browser. If you could let Marissa and I know what you liked, what we could do differently, we would greatly appreciate it. And of course, we'll be sitting here for a few more minutes, but if you have any other questions in this time, just let us know. I also wanted to mention one final time, if you need our tech support team at any point, you can access common solutions to frequently asked questions or reach out to them via email directly within the Libby app in the Libby menu under Get Some Help.
She's taken a look. She said, let me take a look and dig into the expected behavior. So.
All right. Well, if anything, actually, Jen, I will follow up with this answer for you in my kind of wrap up email, just so that way we can let everyone go here. But thank you all once again so much, and happy reading.